Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Hi, I'm Kevin Vost with a new gift-giving idea. Are you trying to convince someone that God really does exist and that God really does care about them? Do you wish you could just hand someone a book that would prove God really does love them and that he really wants to be their friend? Well, there's a book out now that does just that. To find it, Google this title, Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. You'll find it instantly. Just Google Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. That's Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles.
We are going to be reading the miracle about Gave Cops Miraculous Medals. You probably already know a lot about the history of the miraculous medals, so let me just briefly highlight some basic things about it so you can look into it further on the internet if you wish. The miraculous medal is a medal which the Blessed Virgin Mary designed herself back in 1830. The Blessed Virgin Mary appeared over a period of time in the 1830s to a nun who is now canonized as a saint with the name of Saint Catherine Labouré. The Blessed Virgin promised to bless anyone who wore or carried these medals on their own person. Ever since 1830, there have been countless stories of miracles which have followed those who carry and promote these medals. Saint Catherine Labouré is enshrined in a Catholic church in France, and she is in a glass see-through casket where you can see that she is still as lovely as she was when she died. She is distinguished as an incorruptible saint, which means her body has not decayed as normal human bodies do. Knowing that the Blessed Virgin Mary does gain heavenly blessings for all those who do carry her medals, we do people a great service when we give them copies to wear or carry with them. Mary told St. Catherine Labouré in 1830 that people should wear the medals around their neck. Then, sometime after 1981, when the Blessed Virgin Mary began to reportedly appear in Medjugorje, in what was previously called Yugoslavia, she indicated that people should wear or carry the medals with them in order to gain the blessing. I assumed that just carrying the medals was now sufficient in order to reduce and avoid persecutions, because it is more important that each of us knows we are carrying her medals with us than it is to always show others we are doing so. Just giving the medals to others, in and of itself, naturally tells others that we are also personally carrying these medals on our person or in our pockets. I have been nudged by Jesus many times now over the past 20 years to give these medals as free gifts to many people, and quite often to policemen and to policewomen, because of the personal dangers and risks of their jobs as cops. On one particular day, Jesus nudged me to walk over to a parked police car and offer some medals to the cop sitting inside, who was on an apparent stakeout assignment. The instant I got to the car, with my hand outstretched and palm open to reveal about 25 medals in my hand, the policewoman inside the car suddenly and surprisingly became very excited and cheerful. She told me that she had 2 young boys, twins, at age 5. She explained that one day recently she had taken her sons to a Catholic church for a visit in an empty church just to give them the sense of reverence for the church and for the presence of Jesus residing there in the Blessed Sacrament, Holy Eucharist. She said that as they were walking down the aisle, one of the boys noticed a medal exactly like the ones I had in my hand, and he picked it up and put it into his pocket and kept it as his own. His brother felt left out and began to complain, and this mother policewoman had to convince them to take daily turns sharing the medal because she was not able to find another one like it, like the one they had found. She said it was becoming a huge frustration, and she was at her wit's end to figure out what to do about it, because it should be causing peace and joy and not arguments with the two twins. She was so grateful that I had stopped by with these free medals. It turned out, as we talked, that her son found the medal in the church where I had been attending morning mass, and he found it near the pew that I usually use when I go to morning mass. So for me, this was a double miracle today, because I realized that I must have dropped the medal from my pocket by God's divine plan in the church, so that all this could happen the way it did for that wonderful family, and for me too. I gave her enough medals for her whole family so that now they can all have their own miraculous medal. Jesus assured my heart that he had orchestrated all of this to unfold as it did. I had no idea that the policewoman was actually trying to find a medal exactly like the ones which Jesus nudged me to walk over to her stakeout site and offer to her. Jesus often nudges me to give these medals to groups of policemen and policewomen when I see them together, even if I only see two of them together, so that I can tell them all or both that the Blessed Virgin Mary will obtain heavenly blessings as she promised for all those who carry these medals. This has the wonderful benefit of both cops being able to tell each other about the miracles they do encounter in their lives after they begin, both of them, to carry the medals. It is more splendid when two of them can share their miracle stories together, because I have given them both a medal at the same time. I also do this with construction crews I see on the roads when Jesus leads me to do so that the whole entire crew can share their daily miraculous stories with each other in the days and the weeks following, after they have begun to carry their medals each day. Sometimes people do stop and tell me about the miracles they have experienced after carrying these miraculous medals with them each day. The medals are all blessed by a priest before they are shipped to me each month. More information on how to order these medals is shown on Exhibit D, that's D for Donald, at the end of this book. They are not expensive, but of great value in spiritual terms. Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta is reported as having personally handed out about 4,000 of these medals in her own lifetime. We are on page 217. We are now going to be reading the miracle about bringing joy to nursing home residents and staff. Let us begin. I have a good Christian friend who visits nursing homes regularly to hold meetings in cafeterias and to play some popular and golden oldie musical CDs. He also reads some scripture and offers some spiritual insights on topics which the residents and the staff then discuss openly afterwards. One day, my friend asked me to come along and to give a lecture on the value and use of holy spiritual numbers in helping us all to notice God's clues and God's coincidences. When it was my turn to speak, I explained the good spiritual meanings of numbers, and I explained how we might see numbers confirming when we are actually experiencing a miracle. In other words, sometimes when we are experiencing a miracle, we'll see certain numbers pop up in the midst of that. Some of the resident patients and the staff began to ask a lot of interesting questions, and I could see they understood how numbers can be good signals and good clues for some miracles. Exhibit A in the back of this book explains the good meanings of numbers, and we will cover that later. One particular staff nurse became excited and got everyone else excited when she heard that the number 222, that's 3 twos, indicated the following: being sent out 2 by 2, just like Jesus sent out his disciples to minister in the world 2,000 years ago. This number, 222, can also indicate that Jesus is with us, him and us. That's 2 by 2, Jesus and us. Jesus coexists within us and uses each one of us, 2 by 2 with him, to reach out to more souls for Jesus. The nurse then proceeded to tell everyone about her vacation in Barbados and how she rented a car there, and when she picked it up, it had her most favorite number in all of her life on the license plate. She sees this number, 222, many times during a typical week, and she said that she often sees good things happen after she sees this number during her average day. She got many people interested and excited and laughing about some of her stories about how 222 does show up in her life as a clue. I suspect that she sees 222 often because 2 by 2 can mean 2 by 2 with Jesus, right? And since she's a nurse, and she seems like a very loving and kind and gentle nurse, I think Jesus probably lives through her and loves her patients. So 222 is a fitting, very, very fitting number for her. I walked out of the building feeling that Jesus and I had just helped the nurse to see the closeness of Jesus in her life. She had always noticed good things happening when she saw the number 222, but she did not realize God was involved until now. I felt that we had also convinced her to look at these numbers from now on as clues from Jesus to brighten up her day. It was a great gift for me that just as I walked out of the building, I saw a taxi cab parked outside the main entrance waiting for someone to come out and enter the cab. The phone number on the cab to call for service was 222-2222. That's 7 2s. That was the number to dial for the cab. It was parked exactly at the main entrance as I exited the building, and it pulled away after I passed by it, so it was perfectly timed. For me, this was another clear signal from Jesus that he and I were inside the building together, 2 by 2, reaching out to everyone, including the nurse with the 222 number. We are on page 220. We are now going to read the miracle of the gas pump evangelization. Jesus often leads me to evangelize people to gain new friends for him at the gas station pumps. If we listen to Jesus in our hearts, he leads us to see who to speak to or not. One day, when I really did not need to purchase any gasoline at all, Jesus nudged me to go into a gas station to get some gas anyway. When I pulled in, I noticed that there was one pump still available and that the car parked in the next bay and next to my open spot had a license plate which showed only 3 letters. The license plate letters were D for Donna, D for Debbie, D for dog. 3 Ds. The letter D is the 4th letter of the alphabet. We sometimes get a coded clue in letters, and this one would translate to 444, which is used to indicate the holy name of the Blessed Virgin Mary. My usual opening statement in these cases is to say, "Hello, I'm fascinated by your license plate. Did you order it special, or did you just get it by chance at the motor vehicle department?" Then, after they respond, I tell them what the number means in Christian numbers, and I hand them medals of Blessed Mary, telling them about the medals and the Blessed Virgin Mary's promise. Her promise is to obtain God's blessings for all those who do carry her miraculous medal with them. When I got to the end of my normal opening statement on this day, the man got very excited and said he had to call his wife right away, right now, about this because she had become very fond of the number 444 in her life, and that she had ordered the D 3Ds license plate to remind her of her daughter, by initials in her daughter's name, after her daughter had passed away. He was positive she would be delighted to hear about the letters DDD, meaning 444, because his wife was having a sad period just now with life in general, and this might really help to cheer her up. Well, it sure did perk her up, and she was so excited to hear that she was getting some medals of the Blessed Virgin Mary for her family and friends, because she, too, generally says Mary's Rosary each day as well. I feel humbled when I notice that these miraculous encounters seem to be definitely prearranged by God. For example, in the above case, I did not need gasoline because I still had over a half a tank of gas left. But Jesus did get me to go for gasoline in that precise hour and moment when a man with a sad wife was there with a car having a license plate with the letter D for Donald 3 times, which means 444. This sure seems prearranged to me. It is almost as if God is a director of a movie, and he arranges as director of a movie to have all the props in place first before he sends us into the scene to speak a special script, which he places into our minds as we enter the scene. This is the kind of joy we give to others as we introduce them to Jesus as their coexisting friend. It's interesting that the Bible has a book called The Acts of the Apostles, like the acts of a Broadway play. I thank Jesus for sending me for gasoline on that day on time, exactly while the man was there, and to allow me to participate with Jesus in bringing joy to this couple. We are on page 222. Isn't that quite amazing? This story about 3 twos was just read on the prior page, and now we are on page 222. And we are going to be reading the miracle about the store shopping team number 444 with an 888 buddy. Let us begin. I have been shopping at the same grocery store now for well over 4 years. I have often been nudged to place Mary's miraculous medals on some cars parked near me each time I shop. I understand that Jesus takes care of inspiring the owners of the cars later on. My role is to place the medals on the cars to which Jesus leads me each time I park my car there for shopping. The medals are neatly pre-packed inside of an info folder with information on the history of the medals, so that people can understand why I left them a medal when they open it up. It clearly looks like a gift from God when they open it up, because it is free and professionally described by the vendor inside of an envelope with a very attractive description card about what the miraculous medal is all about. One day I was inside shopping. I overheard a supervisor apparently scolding one of his employees by yelling out, 444, 444. He was yelling out the 3 numbers 4. He yelled this out rapidly and 3 times in a row, saying, 444, 444, 444. So I politely asked the supervisor what this all meant, because 444 was a holy number to me. I explained to him why I was asking, and he responded that he calls out the number 444 whenever his team makes a very serious error. He said that his team knows that they made a serious error whenever he does this. I explained that number 444 is also the holy number which reminds us about the Blessed Virgin Mary. And then I gave him, and also each member of his whole team, a miraculous medal of their own. I told him that the medals were all blessed by a priest to be holy sacramentals, Sacramentals are objects which remind us of God, and they're blessed by a priest already, so that all they needed to do to receive God's blessings is to carry miraculous medals with them all day long. Over the past 12 months already now, whenever I am shopping there and I see one of his teammates, I call out to them by saying, 444, 444, and they respond saying 444. It's now a reminder of Mary. After the above 12-month period, a great thing happened. First, as usual, I had placed a metal packet on a few cars outside in the parking lot as I was parking my car. Then, because one car had a license plate number 888, it's 3 8s, I left them a note along with the medals explaining that their license plate, 888, is a reminder in history that 888 signifies the holy name of Jesus. I told them in my note that Jesus had obviously blessed them by giving them such a wonderful plate. Next, when I came in to shop about a week later, the 444 supervisor came over to me and told me that the owner of the 888 car came into the store and told him that he was very grateful for the medals which someone had left on his car, and he wondered if the supervisor knew who left this great note on his car. He said, "I have an idea. It is our 444 customer." The address to use to order the miraculous medals for your family and friends is listed in Exhibit D for Donald at the end of this book. We will be discussing it shortly. They only cost about 15 cents each. There is also a very interesting book by a Catholic priest entitled 77 Stories of the Miraculous Medal. And there's more info about that in Exhibit D for Donald as well. We are now on page 225, and we're going to be reading about the poker game story. That's a card game, the poker game story. Let us begin. We were celebrating a holiday at home with some family and friends. During that afternoon, some of us decided to play cards for a while, and we were playing a game of poker for toothpicks, not for money. We often play cards for toothpicks so that nobody ever loses any money. While some of us were playing cards, some others began to gather around the table and watch. As they were watching, they somehow got into arguing about if there really was a God or not. This arguing was disturbing me because I have taught Sunday school now for over 44 years, and to have my family and friends sounding unsure that there is a God means that somehow I have failed someplace. So I asked Jesus within my mind to help me with what to do and what to say. It saddened me to hear them debating about God and not coming up with any good answers to end the discussion with a good and positive result. I also felt that Jesus wanted me to say something, but I had no idea what to say. Well, Jesus told me in my conscience and heart and mind, where he speaks to all of us, to also deal the empty seat next to me a hand of cards, and to let the crowd watch and see what happens. My immediate reaction was that I was imagining this. I could not believe that Jesus wanted to play poker with us, even if he was sending an angel to sit there in that empty seat on my right-hand side. However, in the speed of the blink of an eye, Jesus convinced me that it will be fine because I can tell everyone that we are going to deal a hand to this empty chair and let Jesus do whatever he wants. Maybe he will do nothing, or maybe he will do something. But all I know, folks, is that Jesus wants me to do this and to watch what happens next. After calming them down, because some of them said that we might get struck by lightning if we did this, I finally began to deal the cards with the deck of cards sitting in the center of the top of the table, just so that everyone could see that I was not dealing any cards off the bottom of the deck. We were playing 7-card stud, which means that the first 2 cards and the last card are all facing down, so no one can see them, while the other 4 cards are all placed facing up as they are being dealt out to each player. The 3 cards shown face down are called the stud, which only the individual player can see when he wishes to look at them. Everyone else only sees the 4 face-up cards. I dealt the first 2 face-down cards, and then I dealt out the first face-up card. I noticed that Jesus, the empty chair, got a number 7 card for his first face-up card. I dealt the second face-up card, and Jesus got another 7 for a card. I got a little excited now because we already had 2 number 7 cards facing up for the chair we were asking Jesus to do something or not do something at, that empty chair. And they already knew that for about 3,000 years now or more, religious leaders have claimed that the number 777 is the holiest of numbers, and it is supposed to mean God's approval or participation or permission. In fact, the Jerusalem Annotated Bible has a footnote in chapter 7 of the Book of Wisdom, which explains that Jews have held the number 777 to be a holy and sacred number for many generations. That's in the Jerusalem Annotated version of the Bible, which was cited at the beginning of this book. Perhaps the most convincing point I can make about 777 being ordained and used by God is this. Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, and Golgotha, also called Skull Hill, where Jesus was crucified, are both at 777 meters above sea level. This means that God created the whole universe, and when he made Earth, he decided to make both the birthplace and the death place of Jesus to both be at 777 meters above sea level. That is pretty convincing evidence that God agrees that 777 is a very special number. The historical meaningfulness of numbers used in Christian writings can be found in the exhibit section of this book in the table of contents in Exhibit A. Well, we had to wait until the end of the hand to see what Jesus, the empty chair really, had in his 3 face-down cards. What awe hit us all when we looked at all of his cards and saw that he had gotten 4 sevens. Jesus inspired me to tell the group that Jesus got 4 sevens instead of just 3 because he could do so, and because he wanted to help us to be sure and to believe in him. I often tell this story when I meet people who deny or doubt there is a God, and I also stress the earth being at 777 meters above sea level in those 2 amazing places. We are on page 228. We are going to read the miracle titled Producing a Weekend Retreat, Revised Key Chain. Let us begin. I was part of a team which was producing a retreat for a Connecticut retreat house. I had given a copy of my lecture, which would be delivered at the retreat, to a teammate to use so he could decide if we needed to make adjustments in our talks to keep our concepts in harmony. We wanted our concepts and wording to be similar so as not to confuse the audience. After I had sent my talk to my teammate, Jesus inspired me to change a sentence in my talk to make my talk easier to understand. Then Jesus said to telephone my teammate to tell him about the change. I called my teammate and said, Jesus had me change the last sentence in the talk to say, open quotes, she had left her keys on the kitchen table, close quote. My teammate said he could not believe what just happened because just before my call came in for him to pick up, he was reading a new book which he had received on that exact day and which he had been reading when the phone rang. He very excitedly and joyfully said, Tony, the line I just read before the phone rang says, her keys were on the kitchen table. Wow. I mean, wow. Yes, there is a God, and yes, we can often find God in the things we call coincidences, because with God, there really are not any coincidences, even though they look that way. Essentially, every act of God is a miracle. We are on page 230. We are going to be reading the miracle titled, Nudged to Drop Off a Retreat Flyer at the Supermarket. Let us begin. Jesus nudged me to drive over to a large local supermarket to hand a copy of my newest retreat flyer and a registration form to a manager who I knew at the store. It was a very busy time of the day, and I had no personal confidence that the manager would be available or even working on that particular day, because they work on a rotational basis, and their hours can be flexible. I was totally trusting Jesus' nudge. So in faith, I drove over through the day's heavy traffic jam period. I parked my car, and then I walked toward the front door to enter in. Then, just as I got to the front door to enter, and exactly at the door frame, the manager was exiting precisely at that same moment, and she was leaving after ending her shift for the day. I got there in perfect timing, precisely perfect timing, with me going in as she was coming out. Amazing. I was able to hand her the flyer before she would have left for the day. If I had been 20 seconds later, she would have been gone, already gone for the day, and that would have made this trip of faith, a trip of faith, yes, a failure. God's miracles often might look like coincidences, but they are not coincidences when God is sending them to us. I had driven through heavy city traffic during rush hour, and in spite of that, or due to that, I was perfectly on time, perhaps because of the heavy traffic. It is always a clear signal that God is involved when the timing is impeccably perfect.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT.